unraveling the mysteries behind this horror icon who continues to haunt our nightmares nearly 5 decades later. Before we venture into this macabre universe, please support us by subscribing to the channel. It's a small gesture that tremendously helps us continue bringing quality content about the world of horror. Now, let's step inside the mind and body of one of the deadliest killers in cinema history. Psychological origins. Beyond schizophrenia, Michael Myers' mental condition is one of the most intriguing aspects of his characterization. Although many fans have speculated about his schizophrenia and antisocial personality, the truth is far more complex and disturbing. Dr. Samuel Loomis, his psychiatrist for 15 years, declared in the original film that Michael isn't just a patient with mental disorder. She represents something far darker. I spent 15 years trying to reach him, and another 7 trying to keep him locked up, because I realized that what lived behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil. This statement suggests that Michael's condition goes beyond conventional clinical diagnoses. While observable symptoms lack of empathy, inability to form relationships, confused thinking, and social isolation might indicate schizophrenia and psychopathy, there are elements that don't fit into any known modern psychiatric diagnosis. What makes Michael unique is the combination of seemingly contradictory behaviors. 1. Meticulous planning. He shows tactical intelligence in planning his murders, which contradicts the disorganization typical of severe schizophrenia. 2. Selective victim choice. His victim selection is rarely random, suggesting a specific pattern or purpose. 3. Situational awareness. Even in an apparently catatonic state, Michael remains fully aware of his surroundings, as demonstrated in scenes where he feigns trance. 4. Ritualistic nature. His murders follow specific patterns, almost like rituals, indicating an internal logic that only he understands. In the novelization of the original film and in deleted scenes, there are hints that Michael hears internal voices commanding his hatred for people, but these voices don't seem like typical schizophrenic hallucinations. They're more like manifestations of the primordial evil that dwells within him. The mask, much more than a disguise. Michael Myers' iconic white mask has a fascinating backstory. Originally, it was a Captain Kirk mask from Star Trek, modeled after William Shatner, purchased for $1.98, then painted white with enlarged eyes and modified hair. This transformation resulted in one of the most terrifying images in cinema. But the mask isn't just a disguise, it's central to Michael Myers' essence for several reasons. 1. Depersonalization. The mask strips Michael of any humanity or individuality. With no facial expressions to read, he becomes a blank canvas onto which we project our deepest fears. 2. Symbolism of corrupted purity. The white color, traditionally associated with purity and innocence, is perverted into a symbol of death. This visual contradiction intensifies the horror. 3. Parallel to ghosts. The pale mask evokes images of specters and supernatural entities, reinforcing Michael's almost ghostly nature. 4. Extension of mental state. The expressionless mask reflects the emotional void inside Michael, becoming a physical manifestation of his empty psyche. Interestingly, in the rare moments we see Michael without his mask, he appears almost ordinary. This is perhaps the most disturbing characteristic. Behind the demonic mask is an ordinary human face, reminding us that true horror can often hide behind a normal.
From idea to submission, empower students to do their best work with Grammarly's comprehensive AI writing assistance. What if they could jumpstart
facade, supernatural physiology, beyond human limits? One of the most intriguing aspects of Michael Myers is his apparent invulnerability and superhuman strength. In various films in the franchise, he demonstrates physical capabilities that defy medical and scientific understanding. Extraordinary strength. Michael consistently shows strength far beyond normal human capabilities, lifting adult victims with one hand, holding them aloft, breaking through walls with his bare hands, crushing human skulls with manual pressure, ripping doors off their hinges. In Halloween Kills 2021, he takes on several trained firefighters simultaneously. Biomechanics experts estimate that some of his feats would require the strength equivalent of lifting over 450 kilograms, far exceeding any human record. Resistance to pain and damage. Michael's ability to ignore severe injuries suggests some form of extreme sensory neuropathy or accelerated regeneration mechanism, surviving multiple bullet wounds in vital areas, continuing to function after being repeatedly stabbed, recovering from high falls without apparent hindrance, withstanding explosions and severe burns. In Halloween Kills, after being brutally attacked by an enraged mob suffering multiple penetrating and blunt force injuries, Michael not only survives, but rises up to massacre all his assailants. Abnormal metabolic processes. Michael apparently doesn't require the same physiological maintenance as normal humans. Rarely, if ever, seen eating or drinking, can remain motionless for extended periods without muscle atrophy, shows no signs of fatigue even after extreme physical exertion, demonstrates accelerated healing, with severe wounds regenerating at impossible speeds for humans, possibly doesn't age normally, maintaining consistent strength over decades. Neurological abnormalities. Michael's distinctive gait to slow, methodical walk is not just a stylistic choice, but suggests a unique neurological configuration, an inability or refusal to run, possibly linked to schizophrenic catatonia, extremely precise and controlled movements when attacking, the ability to remain completely still for hours or even days, superhuman reflexes demonstrated when countering surprise attacks, an inexplicable tolerance to potent tranquilizers and sedatives, the enigma of the eyes. Michael Myers' eyes are described as empty black holes, devoid of emotion or humanity. In several films, there are specific references to his eyes as something abnormal and deeply disturbing. In Halloween 1978, Laurie Strode strikes Michael in the eye with a coat hanger, causing significant damage. This injury persists in subsequent films of the original timeline, with his left eye appearing damaged or whitened. In Halloween 2, she hits both of Michael's eyes with revolver shots, theoretically blinding him. Yet, he continues to move with perfect precision, suggesting that his vision may transcend normal ocular mechanisms. This raises a fascinating question. Does Michael really see through his eyes as we do, or does he perceive the world in an entirely different way? Some theorists suggest that he might sense his victims through a supernatural connection, explaining his ability to track Laurie Strode down decade after decade, no matter where she hides. The question of sexuality and reproduction. A frequently misunderstood aspect of Michael Myers is his relationship with sexuality. Unlike other slasher villains, Michael's motivation doesn't seem to involve explicit sexual elements. His victims aren't primarily chosen for sexual allure or promiscuous behavior, even though the original film includes some hints of that. Michael's relationship with sexuality is more complex and possibly linked to the initiating trauma murder of his sister Judith after she had a sexual encounter with her boyfriend. This event appears to have instilled in Michael an obsession with punishing intimacy, not necessarily driven by repressed desire. The controversial timeline of Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, suggests that Michael was forced to impregnate his niece, Jamie Lloyd, as part of a cult ritual. This plotline was widely rejected by fans and critics, and later removed from the franchise's official canon for being incompatible with the established nature of the character. Rob Zombie's version delved more directly into Michael's distorted sexuality, but even in that interpretation, his homicidal impulses aren't primarily motivated by sexual desire, but by a deeply rooted hatred and a warped view of the world. The paradox of moral conscience. One of the most intriguing aspects of Michael Myers is the occasional glimpse of something that could be interpreted as moral consciousness. In Halloween 2018, there's a notable scene where Michael encounters a child in a crib and after a moment of contemplation, decides not to harm her. This moment suggests several possibilities. 1. Michael may possess a residual moral code, however distorted it might be. 2. His homicidal rage could be selective, targeting specific individuals who meet internal criteria. 3. There might be flashes of human lucidity that occasionally emerge through the malevolent entity. This seemingly inconsistent behavior creates one of Michael's most disturbing facets: unpredictability. Unlike robotic killing machines, he appears to make choices, suggesting an agency and consciousness that make his actions all the more terrifying. The question of immortality, supernatural origin. Michael Myers' apparent immortality is perhaps his most supernatural aspect. Over decades and across multiple films, he has survived multiple gunshots to vital organs, falls from great heights, devastating fires, decapitation in a later discarded timeline, massive stabbings, explosions, electrocution, being run over by vehicles. Several theories attempt to explain this apparent immortality. The Thorn Curse theory. In one timeline of the franchise, Michael was cursed by the Thorn cult with the Thorn Curse, an ancient runic symbol. This curse forced him to sacrifice every member of his family on Samhain, Halloween, to spare the rest of the community from disease and famine. The curse also granted him supernatural strength and immortality. The supernatural entity theory. Dr. Loomis often referred to Michael not as human, but as a pure form of evil. This theory suggests that Michael is a vessel for an ancient malevolent entity, perhaps related to the very essence of Halloween, as a time when the barrier between the living and the dead weakens. The biological regeneration theory, a more scientific explanation, is that Michael possesses an extraordinarily advanced immune and regenerative system, perhaps resulting from a rare genetic mutation. This theory is less supernatural, yet still requires biological capabilities beyond human possibility. In Halloween Kills, it's suggested that Michael grows stronger with every death he causes, somehow absorbing the life energy of his victims. The more he kills, the more he transcends, a character observes, hinting at a mechanism behind his apparent immortality: the distinctive movement. Michael's walk. One of Michael Myers' most recognizable traits is his manner of walking slow, deliberate, almost mechanical. While his victims run in terror, he simply walks, and somehow he always catches up. This characteristic has several interpretations. 1. Manifestation of catatonia. The slow gait may result from his mental condition, a physical expression of schizophrenic catatonia. 2. Expression of supernatural confidence. Michael doesn't run because he doesn't need to. He's certain his victims can't escape, reflecting a different perception of time. 3. Hunting strategy. This behavior can be likened to a predator conserving energy, knowing the prey will eventually tire or make a mistake. 4. Ritual element. The methodical walk might be part of a necessary ritual for his killings, as if every step were part of a macabre ceremony. John Carpenter mentioned that this characteristic was inspired by an old film called Yongri, Monster from the Deep, where the titular monster moved in a similar manner, creating a sense of relentless inevitability. The absent voice. Silence as a weapon. Never spoke a word in 15 years. Dr. Loomis. One of Michael Myers' defining traits is his absolute silence. Throughout the franchise, he never utters a single word, except for a scream as a child in Rob Zombie's remake. This muteness goes beyond a mere personality trait. It's a tool of psychological terror. 1. Dehumanization. Speech is one of the most distinctly human characteristics. By not speaking, Michael positions himself outside the realm of humanity. 2. Psychological impenetrability. Without verbal communication, his motivations remain completely obscure, amplifying the terror of the unknown. 3. Denial of connection. The silence denies any possibility of negotiation, pleading, or understanding, stripping hope from his victims. 4. Amplification of other sounds. In the absence of the killer's dialogue, other sounds become amplified: the sound of his breathing through the mask, the clatter of his boots on the floor, the jingle of his knife, creating a deeply unsettling soundscape. Michael's silence also stands in stark contrast to other horror villains, who often use dialogue to torment their victims. This absence of speech makes any non-verbal communication, such as his characteristic head tilt when observing a dead victim, even more disturbing. Permanent damage. Battle scars. Over decades of confrontations, Michael Myers has accumulated numerous significant injuries that have left permanent marks on his anatomy, something rare for a horror villain who typically appears renewed in every installment. Eye damage. As mentioned earlier, Laurie permanently damaged Michael's left eye with a coat hanger in the first film. This injury is visible in subsequent films, with the eye appearing whitish or noticeably disfigured. Finger mutilation. In Halloween 2018, Laurie shoots Michael with a shotgun, resulting in the loss of 2 fingers from his hand. This injury persists in the following film, Halloween Kills, where his mutilated hands are clearly visible. Extensive burns. After the fire at the end of Halloween the 2nd, 1981, Michael suffered third-degree burns over much of his body. In the direct sequel of this timeline, Halloween 4, he is hospitalized in a comatose state, his body extensively burned and disfigured. Stab wounds. Throughout the films, Michael has been stabbed numerous times. In Halloween Resurrection, previous stab scars are visible on his torso when he's briefly seen without his shirt. These scars and deformities serve as a physical record of Michael's history and the many failed attempts to stop him, reinforcing his almost supernatural nature and his ability to persist despite injuries that would be fatal to any ordinary human. The connection with Samhain. Temporal anatomy. A frequently overlooked aspect of Michael Myers' anatomy is his relationship with time, specifically his connection to Halloween, Samhain, and Celtic tradition. Michael displays a distinct pattern of activity related to the calendar.